Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Hi, I'm Arif Akil, a beginner student of Sacred Reality, Islamic philosophy and Gnosticism. Today we continue our exploration of the heart of Islam by Professor Seyyed Hossein Nasr. So in chapter 5 of the Heart of Islam, Professor Nasr goes further on 4 of Allah's attributes: compassion, love, peace and beauty. So today we explore 2 of these qualities of God, compassion and love. According to a well-known hadith, on the throne of God is written, "Verily, my mercy and compassion precede my wrath." So what does this mean? The inner side of reality. The inner side of reality is deeply connected to God's mercy and compassion. Therefore, without them, without mercy and compassion, creation would not exist. Now, since the world is God's creation, it naturally reflects His qualities. In fact, Islamic spiritual teachings describe the entire universe as a display of God's names and attributes. These God's names and attributes are constantly interacting and unfolding around us. That means, just as God's majesty and justice are present in creation, so too are His beauty and mercy not just present but so self-evident. And both of these, majesty and justice, beauty and mercy, are essential part of His divine design. This truth is often emphasized by Sufis who, as already mentioned, claim that the very substance of the world, the very substance of not the world, but of, you could say, cosmic existence, is the breath of the compassionate. Because God breathed life into the archetypal realities, which means God breathed life into the original patterns of creation, and from that breath, the world as we know it, the realm of separate individual beings, came into existence. This breath, nafas, is associated with the goodness and compassionate of God and not any other quality of God. And as that's the case, compassion is therefore the root of our very existence, the gate through which both creation and revelation were brought forth, and therefore a central reality in all aspects of human life. Every aspect of the traditional life of Muslim over the ages has been intertwined with rahmah, has been intertwined with compassion and is inseparable from it. And since compassion is woven into the very fiber of human existence, how? How does compassion and mercy function on a practical level, function concretely, function on a daily basis in Islamic life? And this answer begins with the distinction between 1. God to the individual, 2. Individual to God, 3. Human beings to each other, and 4. Lastly, humanity to the rest of creation. So first, let's deal with the relation of God to the individual and individual to God. In fact, all of His creation is concerned, it involves compassion and mercy. It's just not rahmah. In addition to Rahman, the infinitely good, Rahim, the all merciful, God is also known as Al-Karim, the all generous. He's just always just giving. And we are sinful beings in spite of His giving. So He's not just Al-Karim, He's Al-Ghafoor, He's the forgiving. He's Al-Latif, He's the all kind. He possesses other names and qualities that indicate His compassion towards His creation, His mercy. Without these, there would be no religion, There would be no human salvation. There would not even be existence itself. It is impossible for a Muslim to pray to God or to even think of God without the awareness of this dimension of compassion and mercy. Second, how does compassion reflect on a daily basis? It's in the relationship between human beings. And of course, our sacred law comes from the Sharia. And the Sharia recommends, no, the Sharia demands, it requires acts of compassion, charity, mercy towards the poor, the sick, the weak, the orphans, the needy. Islamic ethics is based on the model of the Prophet, which emphasizes over and over again the importance of the virtue of compassion, charity, mercy, forgiveness. Muslims should be strict with themselves, hold themselves to higher standards, but forgiving, generous, compassionate to those around them. And this begins firstly with the family, where the Quran and Hadith emphasize numerous verses the importance of exercising ihsan. Ihsan. What's ihsan? This begins with the family, where the Quran and Hadith emphasize in numerous verses the importance of exercising ihsan. Ihsan, that is spiritual virtue, goodness and beauty. That includes compassion, kindness towards one's parents, spouse, children, and other family members, uncles, aunts, cousins. Compassion and generosity must be in deeds as well as in words. And here, where the whole tradition of adab, akhlaq, courtesy, manners is a central key commandment, role in making compassion, generosity, high character, self-discipline, nobility, making it inseparable from the reality of the inner reality and the reality of Islam. You can't stress that enough. Finally, how practically and does compassion express itself in the world? It is in relation to human beings with respect to the world of creation, with respect to the non-human world. Despite the terrible abuse of both animals, vegetation in Islamic cities filled by uprooting of people that are no longer in harmony with the natural environment, Islam teaches that emphasize that compassion, mercy, kindness must be extended to all of creation, animals, plants, as well as to, in addition to human beings. The Prophet dealt with animals gently. There's so many sayings, ahadith that refer to the importance of showing kindness to them, respecting the life of the vegetable world, the vegetal world, not destroying trees or any other vegetation unless absolutely necessary, and that's about it. There are traditional Islamic societies have many examples of compassion and mercy towards non-human realms of life, as well as human order. Now, a few words on God's love. One of God's names is Al-Wadud, love. In the Quran, there are numerous references to love, or hub. As it is said, God will bring a people whom He loves and who love Him. Islam states that God is love. And since this is one of His divine names, it does not identify God solely with love, for He is also knowledge, light, justice, majesty, peace and beauty. But He is never without love. His love is essential to the creation of the universe and our relationship with Him. Love runs through the veins of the universe like compassion is inseparable from existence. There is no realm of existence where love does not manifest itself in some way. And this is the best part. One can say that metaphysically speaking, the gravitational attraction, the gravity that you feel the earth pulling to you, in fact, the gravitational attraction of physical bodies for every physical body with each other is a universal principle of love operating on the level of physical reality. On a more practical level, love in the life of Muslims has its example in the love of God for the Prophet and the Prophet for him. For human beings, the love of God necessitates the love of the Prophet, and the love of the Prophet and the saints who are his spiritual or biological progeny necessitates the love of God. There are furthermore, of course, many levels of love which are natural to human beings. There is romantic love, love of children, love of parents, love of beauty and art, love of nature, love of knowledge, even love of power, wealth and fame. However, here's where the distinction comes of this worldly love. Since the worldly love towards the world, it possesses a danger for the soul. Therefore, in the Islamic perspective, all earthly love should be in God and not separated from the love of God. Any love that excludes God turns us away from Him and is an illusion that leads to the ruin of the soul. I want to repeat that. Any love that excludes God turns us away from Him and is an illusion, is a fantasy that leads to our ruin, that leads to our disaster. Sages have stated that the only love of God is the real love. All other love is metaphorical love. Of course, metaphorical love is also real, but only realized at its own level. And that love is a gift that we've been given. Therefore, like any gift, it should be understood properly, and that love should be used as a ladder to reach the real love, which is the love for the source of all love, which is God. A discussion of love of God is incomplete without a discussion of the dimension of love that gushed forth in Islam within Sufism. And it resulted in some of the greatest literary works written about mystical love ever. And to begin with, one of the greatest Sufi poets, the Sufi saint Rabia of Basri has shared, I love you, Lord, in two ways. One selfish and one that sings your praise. The first, I think of none but you. In all I feel, in all I do. The next is pure when by your grace you lift the veil and see my adoring gaze. But none of this is mine to claim. All praise is yours. All praise is yours. I know the same. The inner signs of this dimension of love have always and shall always remain a secret between a human being and God. As God shared between a people whom He loves and who love Him. This intimate nexus between the soul and God is beyond description. As Rumi says, the pen breaks in two when expressing love. Anyway, in conclusion, the teachings on compassion and love from chapter 5 of the Heart of Islam reminds us that these divine attributes are not abstract ideas, but living forces that permeate every aspect of existence. Compassion is not only the gate through which creation emerges, but also the thread that binds humanity together. From our relationship with God, to our bonds with family, to our care for the natural world. Likewise, love too is not a fleeting emotion, but the very current that drives creation, pulling all things together to their ultimate source. And through love and compassion, we reflect the divine within us, softening our hearts, ennobling our actions. Just as the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, exemplified these virtues in every facet of his life, we are called to do the same, to extend mercy where there is pain, to extend love where there is separation. Till next time, may our hearts be filled with mercy, may our soul be filled with love. Take care, keep reflecting, keep smiling. Goodbye.